Okay, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have another awesome vintage-inspired Meca-Quartz powered chronograph. So, if you guys have watched a couple of my videos in the past, you guys know that I am a big fan of this particular movement, the VK series from Seiko. I'm really glad that these are becoming more popularized, and I'm also super glad that these are becoming a lot more affordable. You're seeing them start to be in more affordable models. Of course, Seiko kept them in very affordable models, but a lot of micro brands out there are charging a premium for models with this particular movement, and it's nice to see a brand like Nezumi Studios come out and release something that has great looks and a really cool movement as well. So a little bit about the brand. Nezumi Studios was founded out of Stockholm, Sweden, and they were established back in 2011. They're a micro brand creative house with an eye for vintage style. Now, this particular type of watch, of course, is a vintage automotive themed chronograph. Now, some key common characteristics in design language as far as that's going to go is you're going to see those vibrant color palettes, the chunky case designs, and most popularly barrel shaped watches. This particular one isn't, but that's kind of the vein in the watches that you're going to see kind of from that era. This particular also, I would say what's very significant about this particular style of watch is that, that Seiko Instruments VK Meca-Quartz movement is really just, it's having a boom in micro brands. There's just a lot of people that are putting out models with this particular movement, and as you can see by the sweep of the chrono hand, there's a reason why. It has a nice little sweep to it. And then, of course, the buttons are mechanical. There's a mechanical drivetrain, so that's really nice, and it gives you much more of a tactile experience when engaging the pushers, because they're actually pushers, not just digital buttons that are soft underneath with just electric connectors. So it's definitely something that once you have it in hand, and if you've ever used a mechanical chronograph, it's definitely going to be a much closer experience. Is it going to be exactly the same? No, but it definitely does offer a closer experience. So I'll leave it at that. And I actually do plan on doing kind of a different chronograph review where I'm going to put together a bunch of different types of chronographs, different movements, and kind of show you guys the differences. But in this particular case, this is a cool, very cheap, and very reliable movement, and also pretty accurate. So I think it's really hard to go wrong with the VK series. Now, this particular model is the Voiture, and it is in the blue dial model. They actually go for about $305 USD without that. The pre-order price is going to be 310 euro, or basically 345 euro for if you're outside of the UK. So those prices are out there. I think this is definitely worth it at either rate. At the time of filming this, it was about 305 bucks, and I think for what you're getting a lot for the money, and especially as far as design, aesthetic, the style, the execution, I think this total package. So let's go ahead and zoom out and get a look at this in hand. So I actually do have this on an aftermarket strap from B&R Bands. Just to get that out of the way, I think that this vintage style rally just really goes well with it, and plays off of the pale orange accent there that you can see. But one thing I did want to do is take a look at the box here. Nice little slip cover. It has the nice dark imprint as far as the Nezumi Studios logo and whatnot. And you have yourself a little pamphlet, some info. It's going to give you directions, whatnot, and a little bit of backstory. And then you have this really great strap, very similar, right? Except this one's black, and it actually has a great signed stamp basically there for the Nezumi Studios, and then signed buckle. I think it was really well done, so I wanted to make sure to share that with you guys. really cool box, and it's not going to take up a bunch of room in your drawers or in your closet, because it is, you know, it's a lot slimmer, which I think is really nice. So let's go ahead and pull that off camera here and get this up close and talk about some of these specs. Now, what's really nice about this particular watch, I'm gonna say, is, apart from the looks, of course, is basically the proportions. This is a really well-sized watch. It's a 40 millimeter diameter. It has a 47 millimeter lug-to-lug width. It's only 11.5 millimeters high. You know, and of course, you know, that's definitely one of the pluses of having a quartz chronograph versus a full mechanical, is going to be that thickness there. So that's definitely a big plus. It is, of course, all stainless steel, and as you can see, it actually is a mixture of brushed and polished finishes, and I think they did a pretty nice job considering the price on this. You know, for something that's really around the $300 mark, it's pretty nice breaks and transitions in polish and brushed. And you know, it has a little bit more, of course, of a difficult case to produce, because it does have those very Omega-esque twisted lugs there. As you can see, those contours, they just play with the light really well, and I really do like the way that turned out. Now the bezel, of course, is fixed. It's a fixed tachymeter bezel. So that's the scale that's on there. It has a non-screw down crown, but it is signed, of course, as you can see. Now a little bit about the VK63 and just, you know, Seiko's Meca-Quartz movements in general. Basically, it has quartz timing, but a mechanical chrono action. So all the timing is still quartz, but the actual chronograph and the chrono hand is going to be powered mechanically, which is really nice. So as you can see, when I stop, snap back. So it's not going to do the electronic sweep back. It's going to mechanically be re-engaged and snap back to 0. So I think that's really nice, and it does have a nice little audible. Hopefully I can get this on the camera here. So hopefully you could hear that. But I thought it was really nice, and that's something that I've enjoyed about my other VK powered watches. And then of course this particular dial layout is, you know, really quite gorgeous. So a little bit more probably about the movement if you don't know. Basically, it can keep a 1/5 second interval, which is really nice, and it has that really nice sweep to it. Of course, it's a multi-headed lever, basically disengages, which is how you get that snap back, that kind of instant 0 versus sweeping back to 0. The chrono mechanism actually consists of over 20 individual parts, and it's definitely more similar to traditional chronograph gear train versus what you'll find in the average quartz movement chronograph. So again, it's more than just kind of flashy marketing. It actually is something, it's been engineered, and I think it's been engineered well, and I'm glad to see it in a more affordable watch. So, and then one that, you know, is plussed up too, because you find this movement inside a Seiko, it's not going to have a sapphire crystal. You know, it's not going to be built this robust. So I think that's really nice to see, and I'm glad that there's companies that are out there that are really making the most out of these movements. Now, as far as the dial goes, it's actually a two-tone blue sandwich dial, and it has cream subdials. So if you can get a closer look here, you can see that there's actually multi-layers there. So it is a nice sandwich dial. So sandwich dial just means basically there's cutouts and multiple layers and levels. So underneath the blue dial, essentially with holes cut in it, there's a cream dial underneath. And that's how you get the color versus it just being printed on or painted on. So I think that definitely adds a nice touch of dimension and visual interest to a watch that's already quite visually interesting. So as far as the indices go, they are applied and polished, of course. Then you have all, you know, polished hour and minute hand with the painted seconds hand, and then the painted subdial hands there. This uses Swiss Superluminova. It is water resistant to 5 atmospheres or 50 meters, which isn't too shabby. It does have 20mm lugs, which is nice, and because they do have that really beautiful twist in, as you can see there. Really nice. You can see the light kind of cashing in, playing on it. I mean, the execution on this case, which is a case that they use across their line, is really quite impressive for the price. So I'm a big fan. So, and then I'm sorry, the strap that comes with it tapers down to 18mm. This particular strap that I have on it, I believe actually tapers all the way down to a 16. I could be wrong though. No, that actually looks like it tapers down to an 18. But yeah, I mean, basically I just chose this more so for the color. It's not a question that the other strap I didn't like or anything like that. I just think the color palette is just perfect and plays with the watch really well. So, of course, you do actually have a Jubilee option as well that fits in here. I have the Jubilee, but it's on the diver. But essentially there's just another set of end links there, and then you just switch these out. You see there's a push pin for those top links. You switch out the end links, and then there's other end links that fit onto this case, and then so you can kind of imagine that's what it would look like, and I think that looks pretty darn good. But I think this really belongs at home on a very nice leather strap like this. It just really speaks to the aesthetic. As you can see, the case back is very nicely stamped, and it is also etched with some other extra information. Really nice. I just think it's really well executed. So let's go ahead and get it on the wrist. So I do have a 7¼ inch wrist, so you guys can get a pretty good idea of how this might wear on you. I think it actually wears really well. My wrist, I would say, is probably considered more medium, large size. Definitely not a small wrist, but of course up close it's gonna seem much larger, but then you get some scale behind it and understand the proportions, and I think, yeah, a 40mm chronograph looks really nice because you're actually making good use of the space on the dial, and then you have a really nice, that tachymeter bezel, I think just balances everything out, and it wears really well. And as you can see, the light does play quite nicely on it. So wears really nice. Proportions, I mean, they're pretty good for any wrist, you know, and it's a great, you know, vintage remix value style watch that is going to, you know, just come in at right around $300, which I think is definitely well worth it, considering it does, you know, have a sapphire crystal and is well designed and has a really cool little movement inside. I think it's well worth that much. Now, as far as model variants go, there's also a white dial. You know, as far as comparable models go, yeah, there's a lot of other vintage-inspired VK-powered chronographs right now on the market. As far as micro brands go, they're flooding the market with these. But like I said before, many of those are definitely more expensive and also probably going to be a little bit more derivative as far as styling goes. I think this particular model does a really good job of not looking like a copy of something else, even though it does have some very standout features like the panda dial and whatnot and the twisted lugs. It doesn't look like a Speedmaster. So I think it came out looking good. You know, it doesn't look like a Daytona either. It just looks like a cool chronograph. So I definitely do like that. So let's go ahead and get it off the wrist and get a quick loom shot. I know this is a chronograph, so it's not supposed to be, you know, this big loom beast or anything like that, but hey, why not? Let's definitely take a look. We'll also do some low light transition shots. All right, we'll charge it up. So this is going to be nothing earth shattering, but you know what? The people must know. So as you can see, the loom is actually quite nice. You know, nothing to write home about. Actually, I should probably engage the chronograph so you can see it taken away there in the dark. So that's definitely a nice feature. And so you can tell the time in the dark. And if you really wanted to, you could even time something in the dark, at least up to a minute, because you can't see the subdials. But let's go ahead and also do a low light transition shot. So basically what I like to do in these is get some low light involved, because of course my studio lights are quite bright and they're not really going to be, you know, too indicative of what you're going to see in real life. But some of these low light transitions, I think, can give you a really good idea of what this watch will look like indoors, outdoors, under the shade, versus my hot studio lights are going to give you a really good idea of what the watch will look like in direct sunlight. So as you can see, I mean, it's just a gorgeous dial, beautifully done, the way the light hits it. Man, it's a good looking watch. It just, it does have all the matte features. It doesn't, you know, I feel like it didn't need any special dial finishing, because the actual, you know, it doesn't need any like radial brushes or anything like that, because it was actually really well done. I think it's just a handsome piece, and it's very cohesive. So that's definitely something that I can appreciate. You know, again, there's a lot of comparable models out there and a lot of them cost a lot more. So I think this is actually a pretty smoking deal for what you get, and it's a really handsome piece, and it's something that has a little story to it. Of course, it is a, you know, from a micro brand, so somebody's never seen it or heard of it, you get to tell kind of the story about this brand. And you know, you kind of know that if it's on somebody else's wrist, they're kind of a watch nut, because this isn't something they picked up at the mall, right? This is something that they found out about on a forum or through social media. So I don't know, to me that just it makes it more of an interesting wear. And you look at the quality and it's there. So I mean, if you have the quality and you have a little bit of fun with it, I think you kind of have everything you need. There's no need to have a bunch of brand provenance when you want to spend $300 on something that's just going to last you, you know, a decent amount of time and keep you interested while you wear it. So with that said, if you like the video, please do hit like. Definitely let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. All right, thanks guys. Bye.